Aria read the letter carefully. It was clearly meant to draw a line, expressing that he didn't want to get too involved with her. But how could that be acceptable? Aria called for Jessie and quickly wrote a reply. Aria used the hourglass. The desserts she finished just a moment ago were restored to their original state. She distributed them to the servants. This way she could not only eat her fill but also win the servants' hearts. Jessie was deeply moved by Lady's generous actions. She brought out the books Aria had asked her to buy, Basic Economics, a book designed for children to learn about economics. Aria planned to study, only gaining knowledge could make her more smart. Under the old aristocratic social system, women couldn't attend the academy classes. Aria could only rely on self-study. If she wants to make her father the count to listen to her words, having knowledge about certain matters was essential. Aria contemplated her prospects, planning to create a career for herself, studying hard to earn her own wealth. Jessie suddenly propped up. She was unsure about Aria's requirements for this year's birthday party. All these years her parties had always been grand events. This time she invited no one, only planning to have tea with a few familiar noble ladies. Aria knew that Mielle's birthday was also approaching and wanted to create a stark contrast between both parties. Teacher Sarah came to visit. Aria happily went to greet her. The maid smiled at the heartwarming scene. Aria clearly understood that Sarah could become her strong supporter. Her visit this time was to inquire about Aria's birthday gift preferences. But Aria just wanted a handkerchief embroidered by Sarah herself. She wanted them to have a matching set like sisters. Teacher Sarah was deeply moved. She stepped forward and held Aria's hands tightly, expressing that she would put her heart into making one for her. Aria felt somewhat helpless. She knew Sarah's future. Her teacher would meet the Marquis in social circles and they would fall in love, leaving no time to care about friends. But Sarah right now showed no interest in social circles. Her expression gradually became dull. Aria suddenly changed the subject, asking her what she wanted to do first after coming of age. Sarah's response was unexpected. She had chosen to become a teacher because of Aria. Growing up together with children was the luckiest thing in Sarah's life. Aria was surprised, never expecting Sarah to genuinely like her. This development was simply perfect. When Sarah becomes the Marquise's wife, Aria would stand beside her and then she would surely shine brilliantly, impossible to ignore. Today was Aria's birthday. Aria has dressed beautifully and elegantly. The party was small scale but enough to match her status. The noble ladies all presented their gifts, but Aria wasn't feeling happy at all, because Oscar hadn't attended even though she had invited. Before she could think more, the ladies urged Aria to open the gifts. Looking at the rough workmanship, she still put on a smiling face, while secretly planning to give them to Jessie. Sarah also handed over her gift. Aria opened it to look. There was a handkerchief as requested and next to it lay an exquisite pair of gloves. Sarah took out a matching pair, happily showing them off to everyone. Aria was stunned, speechless for a long while. This handkerchief embodied Sarah's dedication. It was the best gift she had ever received. Everyone praised Aria's clothes. The fur used to make clothes was of special quality and must have been very expensive. Aria smiled and said that this was bought by her father the Count, then immediately claimed that her favorite gift was the teddy bear her father bought for her once. Under everyone's curious gazes, Aria quickly brought out the teddy bear. It was covered in diamonds, but the ladies showed expressions of horror. Only Sarah innocently thought the teddy bear was really cute. Jessie served tea and snacks. Just as the birthday party was about to begin, Mielle burst in and in front of everyone asked Aria why she wasn't invited to the birthday party. Aria quickly stood up, defending herself, citing Mielle's poor health. Mielle smiled contemptuously, having Emma give her a bouquet of flowers, then left with fake well wishes, leaving Aria standing there stunned. A sister not inviting her sister to the party would surely become a hot topic for gossip. She began to panic. The hourglass was upstairs. She wasn't sure if there was still time to run back and get it. Aria suddenly came to her senses, realizing there was no need to make a big fuss over such a small matter. So she portrayed Mielle as a fragile girl, hinting at her dissatisfaction with the family situation. After all, it was herself and her mother who were intruders. Perhaps Mielle still couldn't accept them as family. She then blamed herself. This prompted Sarah to console her. Everyone immediately got sidetracked, showing concern for Aria instead. Mielle had finally found a chance to embarrass her sister, but Aria cleverly diffused the situation. The party ended pleasantly and teacher Sarah also returned home in her carriage. Aria stayed alone in her room, burning Mielle's flowers to ashes. It seems like she must carry the hourglass with her at all times to be prepared for unexpected situations. Just then Jessie hurriedly pushed open the door. Oscar had arrived during the time Aria was changing clothes. Her sister Mielle had taken the initiative and to host him. While chatting, she gradually shifted the topic to Aria. Oscar clearly was unaware that today was her birthday. He had only brought white flowers as a courtesy. Mielle played the victim card, saying Aria hadn't invited her to the party. She had just visited to deliver a gift and returned to her room, then seizing the opportunity she immediately invited Oscar to attend her own birthday party. Seeing Mielle's expectant expression, even though he was somewhat reluctant, he agreed to attend. Aria eavesdropped at the door but didn't catch the entire conversation. When Mielle saw her enter the door, she quickly stood up to leave. Handing over the stage to her sister, she passed by with a contemptuous smile. Aria felt some regret, not knowing the content of their conversation, but still maintained her composure. While exchanging pleasantries with Oscar, Aria displayed the hair ornament he had sent her, leaving Oscar completely enchanted. She asked in return why he wasn't wearing the brooch she had given him. Just as Oscar was about to answer, fearing his rejection, Aria cut in, claiming it was her first time preparing a gift for someone, hoping Oscar wouldn't reject her goodwill. The man softened again, originally intending to return the brooch, but through a twist of fate it was personally pinned on his clothes by Aria. Oscar's heart had begun to waver. He had brought flowers as a gift for Aria, but the cunning Aria wouldn't stop there. She begged Oscar to be her pen pal, claiming she has no friends. Oscar knew he must refuse, as such a thing would cause gossip if people found out about it, but seeing Aria's pleading look, Oscar could only reluctantly agree. Aria was overjoyed, unable to hide her delight. Oscar tried to rationalize his actions, thinking writing an occasional letter should be fine. After all, Aria was so pitiful he couldn't just ignore her. Their meeting ended on such a pleasant note. Early the next morning, Aria woke up happily, thinking about how she had cleverly used the hourglass yesterday, otherwise she would have been rejected by Oscar. She pondered about having a watch made to track the hourglass's time limit. Just then Jessie pushed open the door, anxiously inquiring about Aria's health. After all, she had previously made some concerning remarks about her life. Looking at the stubborn Jessie, Aria decided to reward her loyal servant, so she cornered Jessie against the wall. Jessie looked at her lady uncertainly, remembering that previously Aria used to hit and scold her. Aria was also aware of this fact. She quickly admitted her past mistakes, then pinned a gold brooch on Jessie's chest as an apology and reflection for the past. She wanted other maids to see that Aria was generous and wealthy and treated servants very kindly. Then she sent Jessie to the jewelry store to specially order her a pocket watch that could reset every 5 minutes. After receiving the order, Jessie left by carriage. Watching her departing figure, Aria noticed a carriage has also arrived downstairs. It was her teacher Sarah. She hurriedly changed clothes and went down to greet her. According to the upcoming developments, Mielle should be sending her maid to cause trouble. To counter this move, Aria decided to choose an easily swayed person, selecting a short-haired maid to serve tea. Aria decided to keep her, but the maid tried to leave, citing Mielle as the reason. Aria had a bright idea, asking her about the maid Annie. Learning that she was the youngest maid in Count's household, she instructed the short-haired maid to bring the hourglass from the decorative cabinet. Rewinding time to 5 minutes ago. Aria directly appointed Annie as her temporary attendant, and so this freckle-faced young maid was summoned. The maid watched Aria and Sarah dancing gracefully and found herself enchanted, becoming lost in the moment. Just then Jessie returned through the door. Seeing her covered in sweat, Aria quickly offered her a glass of water. Of course this was just for show, meant for Annie. After Annie was dismissed, Jessie hurriedly apologized to Aria for her earlier offense, but the goal had been achieved. Annie remained fixated on what she had seen. The news quickly reached Mielle's ears, and upon learning that her sister lacked a maid, she voluntarily offered to share her own maid to attend to Aria. While appearing sisterly on the surface, she was actually sending someone to spy on Aria's every move, unknowingly playing right into Aria's hands. Thus Annie was appointed as her second maid. Aria intended to have her do odd jobs, well aware Mielle would have her spy, but she didn't expect Annie to be so obvious, staring at her directly. Aria felt awkward and had to find tasks to keep her busy. Seeing Annie work efficiently, Aria was somewhat surprised. Then she noticed a strong scent on Annie. Instantly finding her opening, she then lifted Annie's face. Aria began applying makeup on Annie. She was laying groundwork for her revenge plan, and Annie was just one of her pawns. Looking at her transformed self in the mirror, Annie was amazed at how attractive she has become. This caused some slight changes in her resolute heart. Through the scent she carried, Aria was certain that this maid had been secretly using Mielle's cosmetics, so she played along, gifting all her makeup to Annie. She also gave Annie a ribbon, then indicated that with proper effort she could earn a golden brooch like Jessie and gain even better position. Annie's eyes lit up hearing this. Changing the subject, Aria began to teach Annie about tea parties. Having grown up in a noble household, such maids often dream of becoming nobility themselves. Though the practice made Annie feel self-conscious, she was secretly overjoyed. Aria knew this young maid was materialistic, cunning, and malicious, so she would provide an opportunity for this crow to become a phoenix. But only in service to her. Aria would be her guide to nobility, essentially asking Annie to choose sides. Unexpectedly, Annie became hesitant. It seemed, compared to Aria's offerings, Mielle's intimidating presence made her more cautious. Aria expected it a little. After dismissing Annie, she lay quietly on her bed, knowing with how things are right now, she couldn't win against Mielle. Now, she must wait for the right moment to turn the tide in her favor. Some time passed. Aria gazed numbly at the bustling crowd below. Today was Mielle's birthday. Many had come bearing gifts. Carriages full of presents represented noble vanity. But Aria paid no mind to these things. Her only concern was Oscar, her pen pal, who hadn't replied to her letter yet. While Aria was feeling distressed, another carriage stopped by. She thought it might be Oscar, but it was her long-absent father, who had specially returned for Mielle's birthday. Aria couldn't help but recall the tragic deaths of her mother and herself. She would ensure such warm moments of this family become mere dreams. Aria's target wasn't just Mielle but the entire Rouse family. Just as she was planning to use the hourglass at the birthday party, a person named Lane appeared. This newcomer's arrival alerted Aria. She grew uneasy, wondering what chain of events she had set in motion now. Aria was perplexed by Lane's gift, unsure of his master's identity. For a first visit, such an expensive accessory seemed excessive. Watching his intimate interactions with Mielle, Aria felt devastated, wondering if Mielle's charm was truly that powerful. It seemed the changes occurred due to the use of the hourglass were inevitable. Today was Mielle's birthday. She wore a dress Oscar had given her. Aria had received a dress of same style too, perhaps out of courtesy. Aria greeted her father. This gesture also caught Lane's attention. He praised Aria's beauty, then turned to continue chatting with Mielle. Aria felt somewhat lost. This was her first defeat in terms of appearance, but being broad-minded, she realized this person was merely an offense to nobility. Just as she was about to leave, her father called her and pulled out an exquisite jewelry box. Previously only Mielle had received such gifts, but it seemed that her efforts were paying off, as for the first time she also received it. Now was the perfect time to embarrass Mielle. Aria quickly changed clothes and appeared in her line of sight. Sensing her sister's ill intentions, Mielle felt apprehensive. Soon discovering that Aria was wearing the same style dress as her, her face darkened considerably. The guests immediately began gossiping. Mielle, who had just been showing off her dress, was now mortified. Due to the changes in Aria's actions, by now everyone has dismissed the rumors about Aria's poor character. Now Aria was an impeccable lady, whether in appearance or in manners, even far surpassing all others. This made people question the truth about the rumors. Just as Aria was feeling triumphant, Mielle was suddenly called. It was her brother Kane. A false alarm. Aria sighed, but Oscar appeared beside him. Aria was extremely surprised. In her memory, Oscar had never attended Mielle's birthday party, so why? He wouldn't even reply to her letters, yet here he is. Has she caused events to develop in such unexpected ways? And what was going on with Kane? He was leering at her. Even Oscar's face had reddened. Aria instantly understood. Both had developed feelings for her. Oscar couldn't bear the guilt, so he came to Mielle's birthday party. Aria quickly moved to snap them out of it. She pretended to be heartbroken, saying she shouldn't interfere in their relationship, then ran upstairs. This trick worked perfectly. Under Mielle's contemptuous gaze, Oscar followed her upstairs. Aria had been waiting patiently, changing the tea 3 times. Finally Oscar came. Looking at his flushed face, Aria felt an indescribable pleasure. She understood that with just a gentle push she could win Oscar over. Oscar was also puzzled. Though he was supposed to be with someone else, he couldn't stop thinking about Aria. Taking advantage of this rare opportunity, Aria confessed she has no friends, and greatly dreaded parties. Oscar fell right into the trap, showing his dissatisfaction with Mielle, as if saying it's all because of her that he couldn't talk to Aria. Oscar had planned to return home early but was convinced by Aria to stay for dinner. Aria could clearly see Oscar's inner turmoil, so she emphasized again that they were just friends, and since they were friends, what harm could come from some friendly conversation? Soon it was dinner time. Unexpectedly, Lane also sat at the dinner table, catching Aria's attention. It seemed he was trying to play matchmaker for his master. So she began analyzing his identity. As she was thinking, Oscar's gaze suddenly met hers. Seeing Aria unable to join the conversation, he once again felt sympathetic, while Kane was secretly observing her. Mielle thanked Oscar for his gift expecting an enthusiastic response, but Oscar was lost in thought staring at Aria. Mielle then took out a handkerchief she had sewn and gave it to her father to attract attention. Aria watched this seemingly innocent sister, knowing things weren't so simple. But she still played along, praising Mielle, who unexpectedly became presumptuous. Calling Emma to bring out handkerchiefs prepared for everyone except Aria. Lane felt uncomfortable, and quickly offered his handkerchief to Aria, but she just smiled, cleverly diffusing the situation, and Mielle's scheme failed again. Some days later, wanting to understand the handkerchief's origin, Aria called Annie, to give her a skincare treatment, and under the pretext of taking her to gatherings inquired about Mielle's handkerchief. Sure enough, Annie casually mentioned Mielle hiring a tutor. Aria pondered, such things had never happened before, and learned that Mielle hadn't actually embroidered these, she only added a few stitches. Aria knew that the time was ripe to play her move. She gave Annie the exclusive golden badge. From this moment on, Mielle's loyal servants gradually decreased. Lane visited again. This man's master has taken a liking to Mielle, so he frequently visited the mansion with gifts. But Mielle was somewhat melancholic, after all her heart already belonged to Oscar. Her mother was worried, so she asked again about Lane's master's information, but he still couldn't disclose it. He indicated that his master had encountered Lady Mielle by chance and developed feelings for her. Aria listened carefully, wanting to use the hourglass to investigate Lane's background. She deduced that Lane's master must be a foreign noble, otherwise he would be the crown prince. Lane was surprised to hear this, not expecting Aria's thinking to be so organized, but under her questioning he still revealed no useful information. Aria could only pretend not to care, while actually feeling anxious. If this person is just a foolish noble, it would be fine, but if he became Mielle's backer, he would certainly be a major problem in the future. Lane just secretly glanced at her. Next day Aria rose from bed with sleepy eyes. Jessie noticed that her eyes were somewhat swollen and quickly brought cool water to wash. Aria was going to attend her first gathering after coming of age. Annie appeared behind her, having clearly put great effort into preparing for this outing. She carefully inquired about Aria's preferences, unable to hide her excitement. At the tea party, the ladies immediately noticed Annie standing behind Aria, naturally showering her with praises. Aria saw the timing was right and raised the topic of coming-of-age ceremonies. The ladies eagerly gathered around, wanting to tell Aria about Lady Sarah's story. Just then Sarah arrived, carrying a bouquet of flowers. She was late. It turned out an envoy from the Marquis had arrived, causing the delay. The ladies hurriedly asked Sarah about her coming-of-age ceremony. Sarah shyly explained that her handkerchief had fallen to the ground. The Marquis picked it up and examined it carefully, then suddenly asked if he could keep it, so Sarah shyly gave it to him. Afterward she accepted his invitation to dance. Surprisingly, the seemingly dull Marquis had such delicate thoughts. Aria listened to Sarah's narrative without surprise. She knew Sarah would inevitably end up with the Marquis. Then changing the subject, she hoped Sarah would disregard the other party's status and circumstances and only be with them out of love. After all, she only wished for Sarah's happiness. Sarah was deeply moved. Everyone present was happy about this as well, except for the dumbfounded Annie. She was shocked by the idea of a commoner marrying into nobility, though if she had such an opportunity, she would surely climb into nobility herself. Aria clearly knew that only she could help achieve this goal, and this was the purpose of bringing Annie to the gathering. And as expected, Annie took the bait. Her face looks awkward. Aria smirked triumphantly. Aria then began teaching Sarah about love affairs. Sarah was a beauty who had attracted countless men's pursuits. She was both excited and shy, imagining the scenes Aria described. Planning to win over the Marquis, Aria schemed and suggested Sarah give him a pair of gloves, claiming this would surely leave a lasting impression. Sarah praised Aria's brilliant idea, though it was just her experience from her conquests of numerous men in past. Just as Sarah was about to leave, she suddenly noticed a new carriage at the entrance, and upon closer look it was Lane. He politely came to her, wanting to have tea and chat with Miss Mielle. Aria refused him on the grounds that he couldn't have tea with an unmarried lady without her guardian's consent. She just couldn't stand Lane constantly giving gifts to Mielle, so she wouldn't let the two meet. Sarah noticed Aria's expression wasn't good, which triggered her protective instincts, so she suggested the four of them have tea together, and Lane agreed. Then he presented a gift prepared for Aria, again that bouquet of tulips. Aria smiled slightly. Based on the flower's color, she immediately deduced that Lane's master was an imperial noble, which shocked Lane greatly. As they sat drinking tea, Aria was full of doubts. Could his master really be the crown prince? So she had Annie bring the hourglass and began questioning Lane, wanting to know his purpose in frequently visiting the mansion. It turned out that his master valued Mielle's ability to gather information, and the Count's for business was based on her advice. Aria's pupils shook, but that was my idea, she thought. Had my relationship with father never improved? To give all the credit to his biological daughter, Aria trembled with anger. Lane expressed that Mielle didn't seem as sharp as the rumors suggested. Aria coldly mocked Mielle. She could no longer contain her inner feelings and burst out in front of everyone, frightening Sarah. Aria also realized her loss of composure and quickly turned the hourglass to restore everything. She told herself to stay calm. After the long wait, Mielle arrived. After some brief greetings, Lane immediately asked her opinion about the casino. Aria knew this was a probing question, but didn't expect Mielle to know nothing at all. When she heard her say she wanted to build a statue for the crown prince at the casino entrance, Aria couldn't help but laugh, and Lane looked somewhat embarrassed. He then asked Aria for her insights. To everyone's surprise, Aria not only spoke eloquently but also subtly mocked the clueless Mielle. This left Lane staring in amazement while Mielle's face turned awkward. The Count planned to discuss business matters with the family members and also asked for his Mielle's opinion. Unexpectedly, she naively thought that light clothing would be the next fashion trend. Aria laughed after hearing this. This idea would make anyone laugh. To ease the awkward atmosphere, father turned to ask Aria, expecting that his clever adopted daughter could give him the answer he wanted. But this time Aria held back. She actually expressed agreement with Mielle's suggestion. She didn't want to let these two benefit from her ideas. Lane and father were slightly disappointed that Aria didn't take the bait. Aria thought rather than letting them take advantage, she'd better focus on reading to improve herself. Annie burst in the room asking for leave to see the festival, and Aria agreed without hesitation. Soon it was the day of the festival. Seeing Annie's plain appearance, Aria panicked. She quickly took out several exquisite clothes. Only this way she could make other maids envious. After Annie got dressed, she left happily. Aria wanted to read quietly but noticed Jessie standing behind her. After some questioning, she figured that Jessie also wanted to attend the festival. However, she was too shy to ask Aria for permission. Unexpectedly, Aria approved without even turning around. Though Jessie was somewhat reluctant, she had a bright idea and suggested going to the festival together with Aria. They strolled down the street. Aria recalled various past events. She still felt somewhat fearful, but fortunately everything wouldn't repeat itself. She bought 2 skewers of grilled meat and shared them with the two. Sitting by the fountain listening to people sing, she fell into deep thoughts. The groundwork for her revenge plan was complete, but would living just to destroy others' lives can truly bring happiness? Aria couldn't help falling into deep thought. When Asher spotted her in the crowd, he hurried over to make conversation, greeting her politely but just received cold shoulder as reply. She initially wanted to ignore him, however there was something fatally attractive about this man beside her. This compelled Aria to continue the conversation. Noticing him, Jessie and the attendants became alert. Asher's companion suddenly appeared whispering something in his ear, but Asher sent him away, seemingly wanting to chat more with Aria. He took the chance to ask why Aria's attire was so plain, implying, "Why aren't you wearing the clothes I sent you?" But how could he know that he had mistaken the recipient of his gifts from the very beginning? Aria found him perplexing and wanted to take this chance to slip away, but suddenly an explosion occurred not far away. In urgency, Asher grabbed Aria's hand, running to safety. This feeling made her heart race. She had never felt such emotions before. Asher pulled Aria's hand as they ran away, looking for a safe place. While the explosion's light flashed and people's cries of grief echoed, Aria felt the warmth of his hand. She felt this hand was like her salvation, firmly connecting them as they ran until they were out of breath. When Aria came to her senses, she violently pulled her hand away. She felt somewhat uncomfortable in her heart, feeling that she had been losing her rationality whenever she panicked lately. It was absurd to consider this man's hand as salvation. Asher awkwardly tried to comfort her. He handed her a handkerchief that someone had given him at the festival, asking if she needed to wipe herself. Aria refused, thinking to herself, was this person trying to watch her make a fool of herself? She realized they had run quite far. She asked where they were. Asher smiled brightly, telling her he had just led her, and didn't know himself where they were either. He placed the handkerchief in her hand. Aria was really frustrated, feeling her irrationality was failing her. How could she give such an opportunity to this kind of person? She looked around and found this place seemed unfamiliar no matter how she looked at it. She suddenly became afraid, wondering if they had run to the outskirts of the city. She wanted to quickly return. As she started to walk, Asher asked where she was going. She expressed her desire to return yet helplessly couldn't find the way back. Asher suggested they look over there because the night sky was brighter in that direction. Aria stopped walking somewhat embarrassed and followed him. Asher playfully asked if she needed him to carry her. She was startled, and shouted what she was indeed very tired but firmly decided she didn't want to owe him any favors. She took off her high heels and walked briskly. Asher followed laughing, asking if this was better than being carried by him. Aria puffed up with anger while Asher closely followed, telling her that perhaps he could be useful to her. Aria denied this, mockingly saying it was impossible to establish a good image in such a situation. Asher told her she didn't misunderstood him, but Aria said they were all the same. Asher denied this, saying he knew Miss Aria very well. Aria thought he had heard rumors about her, but Asher said something unexpected. Aria became anxious, turning to glare at him fiercely, but Asher looked at her with deeply affectionate eyes. Aria's heart suddenly accelerated. She began to feel that she can't look away whenever she met these eyes, a beautiful blue color, mysterious yet gentle. Asher took advantage of her distraction and leaned close to her ear to tell her she would know who he was soon, and stated with certainty that they would meet again. Before long the guards found Aria. After checking for her well-being, informed her that the festival was ending. Aria felt everything that just happened was unreal, but it wasn't a dream. She returned to the festival with the guards. After returning home, the guards told Aria the cause of the explosion, but Aria was still thinking about that man from earlier, speculating he was a nobleman from the countryside. A maid interrupted her thoughts to tell her that Mielle had written a letter to Oscar's sister Miss Frederick about a woman's tragic life. Her husband committed suicide, unable to bear the burden of enormous debt. The woman worked hard left to repay the debt, yet not only did the debt not decrease, she also lost her unborn child due to exhaustion. A noble lady discovered this tragic woman, recognizing her and promoted her to be their personal maid. But this noble lady passed away from excessive blood loss during childbirth. The woman had no choice but to take on the responsibility of raising the child. The little girl grew up to become a sweet and lovely young lady. The girl was Mielle. She went to visit Miss Frederick, who entertained her warmly. She was already eager to see Oscar, her fiancé, but Miss Frederick wanted to spend more time alone with her, so she asked Oscar to return later. Mielle beamed with a sweet smile. Miss Frederick praised her, telling her that although Oscar usually obeyed her, she wouldn't want her match to feel any burden. Then she praised her again for being a perfect wife material, but Mielle showed a worried expression, telling the lady it was difficult to meet with Oscar. Feeling worried that her abilities were insufficient to help her future husband. Miss Frederick comforted her, telling her not to worry, she would surely become engaged to Oscar as she herself wished for that. Mielle once again bloomed with a sweet smile, joy uncontrollably showing on her face. Getting Miss Frederick's approval was a very good thing, because she was now the prime candidate to become the crown prince's consort. If Mielle could become family with her, no one would bully her anymore. Soon Oscar came, looking somewhat surprised. Mielle quickly went to greet Oscar, showing concern for his well-being, but Oscar seemed somewhat repulsed by her actions. Miss Frederick said that they were meant to spend their lives together, but Oscar responded somewhat irritably that they weren't even engaged yet. The lady laughed. Although Mielle wasn't of age yet, Oscar shouldn't be so rigid. The girl's heart burst into bloom. Upon hearing this, she began to fantasize about the wonderful days of entering noble life. No one would dare bully her, there would be no blemishes in her life. Becoming a member of this family in a few years was already a certainty. Miss Frederick and Oscar soon left. On the way home, the lady kept instructing Oscar to become closer with Mielle. Even if she became the crown prince's consort, she needed to maintain close ties with other powerful nobles. Oscar still had reservations. Miss Frederick sensed something was wrong and brought up the rumor that Oscar had close contact with a prostitute's daughter. She slapped Oscar and made some cold remarks. Oscar hurriedly tried to explain, but Miss Frederick didn't give him a chance to speak, telling him to obey and implied he would no longer have the power to make his own decisions. Oscar felt wronged, wasn't like the rumors at all. A few days later Aria received a letter from Oscar. Aria calmly accepted the letter, though her heart was actually blooming with joy, but after reading it her expression suddenly fell. It turned out Oscar was telling her in the letter that he could no longer correspond with her. Her entire mental state collapsed. Aria bitterly repeated Oscar's name over and over in her heart. Soon after, a maid rushed into her room telling her that her sister had also received a letter. The letter contained romantic words bubbling with pink sentiment. They couldn't believe Oscar had written such thing. This must have been written by Miss Frederick. Aria had always thought that she could solve everything by securing Oscar, but suddenly realized that she had forgotten about this thorny lady. Whether her sister could marry Oscar depended entirely on this lady. Even if Oscar still wanted to write letters, it wouldn't solve anything. Exhausted, Aria fell and wept in despair.